Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Honest to God, where Michael just admitted that he's a poor boy, and I am also a poor boy.
You are in a position above me, so you have a significant amount of money more than me.
You know what's great?
Tell me what's great.
Water's great. Water's great.
Welcome back to another episode where we find out how much each other makes. What's your salary, Ricky?
The Monopoly money is just raining from the heavens.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just nothing but the best of the best. But anyways, hey, y'all, welcome to episode 2. My name is Ricky, co-host, and I'm joined by my good friend...
Michael.
Co-host or
co-host.
No, just got demoted already?
Cohort.
What?
Whatever that means.
No, that's not. You don't want to... Okay, well...
Isn't that like a it's like we're co-conspirator. Like that, those are all the same word, basically.
I thought it was like a college thing where it's like almost like co-ed something, but like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking something different.
I don't. Tell us in the comments.
To be honest, yeah, I don't know. So to be honest, that's what social media is for these days.
Yeah.
Is to figure out exactly.
It's to figure out. It's like a search engine.
Yes.
I mean, anything I need to find, I look for a hashtag or I search in the search bar on Instagram or TikTok.
That makes sense. Well, hey, episode 2, right? So we're talking about social media impact and how it's really affected our different generations.
Yeah.
And for me, like my experience with social media was even before the times of like, so 1980s, right? All the way to 1996 is when millennials are usually born. But around like that 1999, there was these things called messengers, not like Facebook Messenger, but like this was like AOL Instant Messenger. This was like Yahoo Messenger.
So you're saying, so basically what you're saying is like, this is like almost like the first social media for you.
Pretty much. And all it is basbasically texting. That like
because I've never heard of what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I don't even know what the
this
word
would literally
AOL means.
Literally like there'd be like this box you would log into like through an email, and we all lied about our age to get past the restrictions.
Oh, so it was age restricted.
I'm pretty sure it was.
So you weren't being honest to God when you signed up for this.
Listen, my screen name is what we called it was. Listen, it was Dragon Slayer 5698, I believe, if I can remember.
Did that? Hold on. Did that like?
Yeah.
You're telling me that's a girl song? No. Was this what pulled ladies? Dragon Slayer?
Well, I mean, we won't talk about my dating life back in the day. My wife listens to this podcast, so. I mean, she's aware, but anywho, she's aware of my dark past. But no, seriously, this is what my first experience with like a social media like platform was like.
This is different from what's that one that's also old that
you'd never been on?
I would have guessed is the first.
Yeah,
social
this
media
is
platform?
different from MySpace.
MySpace, okay.
If that's what you're thinking.
It's
of.
different. Before?
Yeah. So we had that, and we would go home every day, and like, listen, we wanted to talk to our friends still, but the only way we can connect with people was through these messengers, AOL or AIM or MSN or Yahoo Messengers. How we would talk to people. So we would go and like our moms, our dads, like they might be on the phone, so like we couldn't really use the phone, and there wasn't texting yet, like on your phone or anything like that. So like. We would have used this. I remember I annoyed the mess out of my sister because my sister had a computer and she would like never be able to use it because I always wanted to use it because I wanted to talk to my friends.
Okay.
So that's how that was.
Sounds about right.
Then we upgraded to MySpace. I have a MySpace. I mean, it's gone now. It's completely like deleted.
Is MySpace even accessible now?
I think it's like a music platform now more than anything. I remember there being a time when like Justin Timberlake or something like that took over it or something. I'm not sure. But I don't know. All I know is like all that data stuff I believe was like deleted in 2016. So like you can't even go back and like get your stuff or anything like that. Okay. But man, let me tell you something that MySpace had that was a game changer. They had the top 5. Imagine you're best buds with someone and you never made the top 5 on someone's MySpace profile.
So this is like the people that you like talk the most with.
Yeah.
So it was almost like a public display of like where you were in the friend hierarchy.
Pretty much. Like, honestly, you could put music on your profile, which is cool. So like anytime someone would click on your profile, it would be like your angsty music that you're listening to, because none of us wanted to listen to Christian music. It was all angsty, like emo, because we're all a bunch of e-boys and e-girls, essentially, millennials. And then, or it was like rock, or it was like Metallica was like being brought. And like right when you load, it would play your music, and you could have like a little music player in your profile, and it would go through all your favorite songs. And then below that would be your top 5 or top 10 friends.
So you're telling me that Instagram literally stole that from MySpace? Because like you can do that in Instagram now. You can put music like on your profile and it plays.
What in the doodle? When did they do that? I didn't know you could put Instagram on your profile.
Yeah, like
music on your Instagram.
You can like write a little message now and like put like a song to play. I like.
When did that happen?
I don't know, like probably like a month ago, maybe more than that. It's gotta have been more than that. But that sounds like exactly what you're describing. It's like as you're talking about this, I'm just like,
well, it was cool. At least it was cool when I was a kid.
Cool.
I mean, I didn't even know it was a thing. So if I go on your profile right now, you'll have music playing.
I have to like set it.
Oh, you have to set it. You have to set it like every time.
Yes, every 24 hours you like it wipes and you have to.
This was permanent.
This was permanent.
Like this was like a
Did
play.
you have to like buy the rights to the music?
No, bro, we don't do anything like I think. I don't know, but like you would have to like it was like a music player almost. It was almost like Spotify or Apple Music before Spotify and Apple Music came, because it was literally a music player. I don't even remember how we got the music on there. I'll be honest.
Really?
I feel like we just searched it and we were able to like upload it into it. But you would have best friends and like top 5, and man, it started. Man, I don't know about you all, but that top 5 was a big deal. Like it was essentially like if you weren't top 5, like you weren't really even friends with that. Like that was when social media really started creating a divide in friendships.
That's crazy.
Already destroying.
Wow.
Maybe.
So like at the start of social media, it was already a divisive thing.
It could have been.
It could have been.
Yeah. Like
I mean,
think,
if that was how social media was nowadays, I mean, that would cause.
I think for us, like millennials, like we grew up in like like Gen Z, like you grew up, like you woke up, like you were birthed and you had an iPhone in your hand.
Yeah.
Right. Like. Yeah. But like for us millennials, like we grew, right, and then it was like middle school, like whoa. Holy moly! Like, what's going on? And then, like, we grew up in that high, like, hype moment of like tech was like really fun.
I've never known a world without it.
Yeah,
I've never known a world without it.
Yeah. To where we were like in that middle ground, and it was fascinating. And then Facebook came around, and then eventually would just like completely destroy. Facebook came around in like 2004, and then I think it took like
that is 2 years after I was born.
Yeah, so Facebook would then come out, and I mean it was the coolest thing. Like I think a really cool documentary on Facebook is I think it's called The Social Network.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting on all that, and and then that was my next like exposure to something that was like Facebook.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you all are listeners, if you know what other social medias there were out there even before Facebook. There was a ton. I think there was like examples of social networking would be like Skype, if you remember that. This is before Zoom and all that jazz. But it was crazy. But what about you, Michael? Like, what was your social media?
Well, I mean, you already kind of like said it. Like I was born, and when I came out of the womb, I had like an iPhone in my hand. Like not literally, but like from the moment that from the moment I understood what an iPhone was, I had one. I was using it to text friends. Never had to use any sort of Dragon Slayer 5879 username.
Hey, whatever it took.
It was just my phone number.
Well, you don't have to give me that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to say I'm better than you, but you know.
Listen.
I wasn't a Dragon Slayer, so. Anyways.
Yeah.
And then Instagram like was around when I was in elementary school.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as big as it is now.
Yeah.
Back then. The things that were big was like Vine, YouTube, anything.
Oh yeah.
Any of those like video things, any sort of entertainment. Like social media for me was like something like to show my friends like, oh, look at this funny thing I found.
Yeah.
And that was through like YouTube or Vine. Like even Snapchat really wasn't a thing. My generation didn't use Facebook. We were seeking a source of entertainment when Instagram was first getting off the ground. It wasn't until things like I don't even know if you remember it, but after Vine, there was Musical.ly. Do you
Yeah,
remember
it
that?
sounds familiar. Yeah.
Musical.ly was like the next big thing, and that was like the precursor to TikTok, and that was huge. It replaced Vine. Nobody liked it because it replaced Vine, but there was like that, and that right when Musical.ly came out was when Instagram was starting to become way more popular than it was. That's when Facebook bought it out. So there have been a lot of different social platforms because I came in to it while they were flying off. I feel like the idea of social media didn't really like take a big effect until really like those video platforms came out, and like that was like a new age. It was like almost like new age social media compared to like you were using it mostly for things like chatting or like reaching out to people.
Yeah.
Whereas like by the time I had really gotten into it, it was all entertainment. And it was evolving very fast. Like there was a platform one day, and then there was a new one, and then another new platform, and it was just like almost like it was just like, I don't even know what the word I want to use, but it was just like almost like there's just too much. There's just like too much stuff to choose from, until nowadays it's just the trinity of Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, really. I mean, Twitter, maybe.
Well, now it's
X.
X.
Threads.
Lame.
So that's kind of been my experience. It's kind of like when you see like superheroes have like a belt, like it's like something that I can never like leave without.
Yeah.
Like social media easily became something that was like something that I like felt like I always had to be attached to.
Yeah.
And I can't explain why. No one ever told me that, but social media definitely felt like when I was getting into it, especially like when Instagram and TikTok have been taking off, it was like I need to have this.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's like at one point social media kind of took a turn. Like I think the more of it was like this social network more than anything. Like, cause I remember like just the reason it was so appealing was because like I could talk to my friends more than just at school, or more than just like at the playground. So it was like exhilarating because it was like, oh man, like I got to see Timmy at school all day, and man, we could talk about shows we're watching, like, and we're miles away from each other, and I don't have to like take up like the dial up, or I don't have to take up the phone line or anything like that. Like my mom can talk to her work friends, and my dad can talk to people. Like I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And I think that was so pure, like the connection piece then. But I think as time passed, social media kind of turned into like what the tensions we have now, and some of the things that impact even our spiritual lives now, to where it's not about really network anymore. Like I'm on Facebook now, and I'm like, I scroll for 5 minutes or so, and I don't feel anything. Like I don't feel like that connection piece or anything. Or like I scroll through Instagram, and it's a bunch of filters of like people trying to maybe be a certain way, or maybe to live a certain way, or like I don't feel that connection piece that I still remember to this day. In 2023, that like, man, I remember when I would get home and I would log onto a messenger and I would want to connect with a friend, and now I feel like I'm so alone, like on social media now.
So it's almost like the opposite effect from where you started at.
Right.
Whereas like I would say for my generation, it never gave us even a reason to want to have relationship in person like you had.
Yeah.
Like you almost like, oh, I had all these friends at the playground, and then I could go home and still hang out with them.
Right.
Whereas like I just never had the friends on the playground. I was always just Call of Duty or Fortnite. That's where my playground was.
That's sad.
And anytime I wasn't doing those things, it was social media became self-indulgence.
So how's that impacting like Gen Z now? Like what?
Well, like I feel like that it wouldn't have had as big of an impact if it wasn't for COVID and the pandemic.
Yeah.
That period where Gen Z was already engaging in, like I just said, I never had that playground.
Right.
My playground was already online. And then when I was forced to have to seek out that connection even more so than I already was, it's almost like I just completely disregarded physical contact with people, real relationships.
Yeah.
And then that's when I would say I experienced true loneliness. It's when I like my only relationship with somebody was hearing their voice over like a phone call or like a game chat or something like that.
Yeah.
And I would say ultimately it had a huge negative effect on Gen Z. Most Gen Z that never, some Gen Z still haven't recovered. Socially awkward, like when they get into conversations with people. Some people develop like just fear of people, just like are now afraid to even go out into public spaces because they were just gone so long. It's just like it's developed a phobia almost of just like wanting to be even in physical contact. It's like, and it's crazy because like we already were socially distant from people with our lifestyle, with social media, with all the things we were doing. And the pandemic took what little physical relationship we had and completely removed it. And then it was just, that was like the end. Because we were like, it's almost like we were living off of a like all I drink is Mountain Dew, but every now and then I'll have a sip of water. Like, like just enough water to keep me going. And then like the pandemic almost like completely took that water away. Like that one good thing that they were having, the bare minimum of that is just gone. And so like, I don't know. Most of the people I know like obviously love Jesus and were able to get out of that because they pursued the kingdom and they're plugged into a local church. But anybody who is not in that sphere, I know has not had an easy time.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of like share a few statistics really about millennials and just how crazy it is now. And I think and this is coming from Get Nugs, or I think it's called, or GetNux or whatever.com or something like that. Anyways, it's giving out a statistics for current right now, like 2023. So however all credible they are, I'm not sure. But it's eye-opening.
Their name is Get Nuts. So they have... Did you say... Is that what you said?
Get Nux? Yeah. Is it not that? Is it... it's GITNUX.
I thought you said Get Nuts.
No.
And I was like, get like nuts, like crazy, or like get like acorns.
No.
Get Nux?
Nux. I think it's Nux. It's like Lux.
Like Knuckles?
Lux, but Nux.
They sound like incredible swords.
Get Nux. I don't know. Anyways. Get Nux. Anywho. So what's really fascinating is they're saying that 90.4% of millennials are using social media actively. Actively using it, and that millennials spend an average of 2 hours and 38 minutes on social media daily. 71% of millennials check social media sites multiple times each day. I do that. 56 of millennials have reported using social media more since the start of COVID-19. And the top 3 social media platforms for millennials are Facebook, 87%. That makes sense because we transitioned from MySpace to Facebook. That became like our next big social media networking there. Instagram is 72% and YouTube is 66%. And I find myself on YouTube more than anything right now when it comes to learning like how-tos or like how to do stuff. And I don't know if it's...
And I would say that that's abnormal for your generation.
Yeah?
I don't know very many millennials that are hitting it up on YouTube nowadays.
Maybe we're just the hip ones.
Sheesh.
I doubt it. I probably could still break my hip. But, and I think, what that's fascinating, like some of the things about like social media, like this is some of the impact and the tension of it. Like social media in a way and how I grew up almost become like a parent for me and showing me how to do things. Yeah.
It almost was like, oh man, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Like I never felt the need to ask anyone for help because I would just go and help myself.
Yeah, let me get like an example. Like when I was growing up, right? Like I didn't come from like a very like wealthy family or anything. Like we're very maybe low middle class. Maybe I'm not 100% sure like on paper what my parents like made and stuff. But I remember thinking it was normal to crack eggs into a Tupperware, scramble it, microwave it for a minute, and that's how I made my eggs. Like my majority of my childhood.
You like mom or dad didn't stop you from doing that?
Nah.
It's kind of like those things. They have like those instant eggs now. Mm-hmm. So like maybe you were just ahead of the time.
Maybe I was ahead of the time.
You could have been a business owner at a young age.
But I didn't realize like when I didn't start like really learning things until like social media became like almost like a how-to platform instead of like a social media platform. Like I'm going on social media for maybe entertainment at some point, but also like, oh, like interesting things like, oh, that's how you build that. Oh, that's how you create that.
Yeah.
Also, marriage helps a lot in growing up. So, but some other things on this too, like 75% of millennials consider social media an essential part of their daily life, to where 39% of millennials have Facebook account explicitly for sharing self-promotional content too. Like I think social media,
it's all about the idea of self.
yeah, it's about the idea of self, and like people are finding like their identities and how they're and their followers,
Yep.
and all that stuff too.
And I would say my generation picked up on that too, and that
Yeah.
is I would say that's the exact same.
And we talk about entertainment, like, you know, TV, like we think about I grew up in the cable era, right? Like there's cable's kind of like just here.
Yeah.
Like I just exist. Cable says that. Like this is fine. Like I just exist.
Yeah.
And it's like all these subscriptions to everything. Like that's just taking over everything now. And you know, even millennials, like 34% of them spend more time on social media than they do watching TV. Like social media is their entertainment, or has become their entertainment.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But I see with millennials, like we grew up with how rapid the world was really operating probably in those times, and we were learning and tech was evolving as well.
Yeah.
You know, we really did become a generation to where social media was a brilliant idea for us when it came to keeping connected with people that we went to school with, people that we learned.
That you don't
like
see anymore.
really, really great opportunity for networking. And I think it's just really evolved into, it can be very dangerous as well.
And that sounds like it's the same problem for even me, just as an individual. So easy to make it about me. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. You know, we live in a world where anybody can be famous. If you hit the algorithm the right way, like, you know, you can boom yourself into a public space with millions of views, and make a lot of money doing it. And so it definitely has shifted into this, like, it's this dangerous realm of, even for Christians, like, we have something in our pockets that promotes the idea of I'm better than everyone else. So, like, with that being said, and that obviously being something that is a struggle for both of our generations, like, how can we take what we obviously see and take step forward in the right direction to, you know, walk in the opposite spirit, walk in the way that we should.
Yeah.
And how do we set the example?
How do we set the example
for like a secular environment? Like, you know, like when scripture talks about like they should know you by your fruit, by your actions. So like, how can we as Christians, even on these platforms, set an example, or just in public spheres of like how to not make it about us, but like, I don't know, how can we properly use these platforms in a way that's not so self-centered?
I think it comes to how honest are we about really sharing who we really are, right? Like how vulnerable are we, and how willing are we actually even to share that? Like going through, like with me actively going to like the gym and stuff like that, and even coaching at a gym and stuff, like I go on social media a lot of times as a tool or as like a resource to look up like how other coaches are teaching on techniques. But then sometimes I could spiral down to like a really, really bad path of me comparing how I look to, say, someone who's been doing it for years. I think how big impacts that we can be in social media is really bringing it to the point of like really still staying true and grounded to who we are. But that would mean that we would have to have some kind of foundation of who are we, like who is Ricky, who is Michael, to be able to share something like that. Because you're doing some things on social media as well. Like you share stuff constantly. So, you know, what do you think? Like, how do you create an impact, or like, how are we protecting ourselves in a world of social media where we can find our identity in other things instead of God?
It's like, I know that it's easy to make it about me. And I really felt like that the reason I even started posting more about Jesus was because God told me to, like, hey, stop trying to make yourself known, like make me known. And that might not be the solution for everybody, but I started posting a lot of content just promoting God, promoting Jesus. Like I want my life to be a platform for the kingdom of heaven and not for myself. I just realized how selfish that I was getting. And so I wanted to promote Jesus. And I found that was the way for me to use social media in a way that, still let me engage with it, but also didn't take over my identity.
Yeah.
It didn't replace Jesus in my life. It
That's
didn't
good.
replace
Yeah.
like even the other voices in my life didn't replace my leaders. Social media became an opportunity to not only disciple my peers, but also reach the lost. I had several people who just happened to come across my videos that were atheists that responded, sent me a DM, asked me more about Jesus, and at least I can name a handful of people who've DM'd me who have accepted Jesus, all because of that. And that's not the solution for everybody, obviously. I make a lot of content promoting Jesus, and somebody who works a 9 to 5 has kids, like that's not the solution for them.
Right.
The solution for them looks different. But I think it all comes down to, being aware of the problem, which is I can make this about me, and walking with the right steps of how do I make this not about me. More so, I guess how do I make it, like you were kind of talking about being authentic. How can I make this like authentically about me? Like how can I make sure I'm not sharing the parts of my life that I only want to share, and not the parts of my life that really might impact people. Because if you're, especially if you love Jesus, you have things going on in your life that God's doing, that is a testimony that could be shared, that could change the lives of people. But I think we neglect to share testimonies of the things God is doing in our life over things like, look at this dinner I ate at this fancy restaurant. Look at this latte I had on this trip. Like, we're so eager to share the things that make us look good. But we're not excited to promote the things that make God look good in our lives. Like, I couldn't pay rent this month, and someone just came and paid my rent. Like, where's that Instagram story? Or where's that post that somebody makes just like promoting God? I think that's my perspective on it, is like, I'm like, if you can't make content promoting Jesus, like, why don't you share the parts of your life where Jesus is making a difference?
Yeah, and I think, like, I get it. Like, it's hard because social media now has like this appeal to where it's like, man, like that's what's really, really cool, and like I want people to like me, right? Like we have such a hard time. It seems like as of late we have such a hard time building relationships because we don't really know how to. So we look to social media for answers for everything because we don't have maybe mentors in our life, or we don't have parental figures in our lives, or parents that even think like that to think, oh, like I actually have to raise my child to operate in the world and be ready by 18. Like we don't think like that. Now, like I'm not a parent, right? So I don't know all the difficulties of that, and I know that's challenging, and I know every single child, through having friends who have kids, are unique and different in multiple different ways. But when we start pouring into social media, right, and we start looking at social media as like, hey, this is my mentor, it could be a very dangerous spot depending on what we look into.
Wow, that's really
because a lot of times what happens is, and what I can see even myself is, like I'm going to believe something from a TikTok who sounds confident.
Yikes.
Or like, or like something that'd be like, dang, like that's deep. Like that hits different. Like I see that person speak to me, and like that speaks to my heart, and that speaks to my desires, or that speaks to my want. But it might not be rooted in any kind of truth. It might not be rooted in anything that's actually fruitful. It might not be rooted in anything that even brings life to the people around me and to my community. But that hit my wants. That hit me, and maybe my selfish desires or my evil desires that I might have that I haven't even reflected on. But that's what social media is. With TikTok or with YouTube Shorts or YouTube Reels, they're so fast, they're so quick. It's almost like I go through an emotional high and a roller coaster every single reel that comes through. It's almost like it's a drug in itself. It's almost like it's a drug in itself. And if we're not careful and we're not protecting ourselves and we're not like seeking God in those moments, it can open doors to a path to where we get stuck. Now, like, there's people that use social media and like it's purely entertainment, like, hey, more the merrier. But I do believe there is something in like portion control and everything that we do, right? Like, what are we inviting into our minds? Like, what are we inviting into our soul? Like, what are we inviting? What are we doing? In the sense of, I look at social media now and the impact that it has. Social media for me, a lot of times, like it's a resource. Like I didn't have the privilege of a father that showed me how to build things. My dad worked extremely hard and still does to this day, works extremely hard. My mom works extremely hard to where I understood as a kid when they were home, like they needed to rest because they're working 80-hour weeks a day. Like that's what the kind of family like I grew up in and stuff like that. So like I didn't get that privilege. like those people that are shown things from a father, shown things from a mother on how to do things. So social media was like my teacher, was like my mentor for a lot of times, at least into like going into recent things. But.
I think it's just like, it's so obvious that there are a lot of issues that have arisen because of social media, like things like identity, like is this where I'm finding my self-worth, but also like, am I engaging with people? Am I learning from people? Am I seeking out mentors, spiritual leaders, or am I receiving my spiritual intake from a TikTok or an Instagram reel? And like, even like just when like, that's so counterintuitive to what the Bible even pushes us to. Like in Proverbs, when it talks about like iron sharpening iron. I don't think iron sharpens iron over the internet. Right. Like, I mean, I know that didn't exist, but like, I don't think that idea of real work being put into like, you know, have like conversations like this where we're sharpening one another. And like, even like the idea of like fellowship, like, yeah, you could do like a Skype call, but that's not what you're doing. You're scrolling through TikTok or like a, I don't know why I said Skype. Because you said it and brought it up. It was in my head.
You weren't
like
even
Zoom.
born.
Like, I ain't never used Skype. But like Zoom, like you can do fellowship over the internet, but like not over social media. Like from an idea of like, you're right. Like, you know, some guy can say some things in confidence into a microphone and it could sound really great and it might give me a little like emotional push, but it's not feeding my spirit in a way that a conversation like this would and a room full of people worshiping Jesus would. So like, that's like even where my head is at too. Like if we're called into fellowship, like the early church in Acts shared all their belongings. Like, you know, they literally did life in like a little circle together. Like they shared everything. They shared food, water, drinks, clothes. Like there's obviously something biblical too about having real relationships with people. Like you don't see a lot of people writing emails to each other in the Bible, like, and that's all the interaction they had. Like letters would be written and then Paul would go to those places. So no, I just like obviously social media has almost plagued our culture in 1,000 different ways. And I even like feel like it's just hard to like, it's hard to tackle every single one because obviously it's almost like in a way like we are controlled by the phone that is in our pocket. And it's preventing us from engaging with Jesus. It's preventing us from engaging with people. And it's promoting the idea of I'm better than everyone else. I have more wisdom than anyone else. And why would I need to go seek others when I have me? And that sucks.
And I think we just have to use true wisdom too when anything we use, like not even social media, but just in life as well. Like, you know, asking God, like, man, like give me wisdom to make choices that, you know, glorify you or bring honor to you. You know, there's so much in just the subject of social media alone. But for me, like in things that I try really, really hard in doing is, why do I go on social media? If I know, going from a millennial where I saw the connection through messengers and stuff like that, that's what I craved when it came to social media. So social media right now does not create that for me, but it does create beautiful moments. Like there's tons of friends that I see on their Instagram reels where they're showing their kids, or they're showing a great experience that we're doing. And I think some things that I struggle with that, which I'm not saying like those are wrong things. Like I love those things. Like I love seeing like friends of mine that are now like you know, they're a family and they have a kid and they're doing some things and they're going like hiking or whatever, or they're having a pool day or whatever. Like that's super, super awesome. And I love that. But I went to like a concert, like not so like just recently ago, and like the majority of people just not living in the moment of a concert, but recording this to post to show the people that life is good. But man, sometimes life is just crap. Like literally,
most of the time.
Most of the time. Like if we are feeding off of just the happy things, and we cannot bear the fact that man, life sucks sometimes, and then we are so alone to where we have no community to go through the crappy parts together. Like, man, that's so lonely and so depressing. And no wonder we see suicide rates go crazy right now, and we see things like that. And even in the church like that too. Like you can use social media to glorify God. 100% that I believe that. 1,000%, whatever it may be, whatever percentage, infinity, whatever. Like I absolutely believe that for sure. But I think as like consumers of social media,
Yeah.
I believe like we have to use wisdom and seek God seek God in wisdom, wisdomly counsel. Like, man, like, is this really edifying to me or not? Or is this entertainment? If it's entertainment, great. That entertains you, great, awesome. Nothing wrong with entertainment.
Yeah.
But again, it comes back to portion controlling your social media.
We're too concerned with showing people we're okay.
Yeah.
That's like, I feel like
Yeah.
what I heard. It's just like when I'm at a concert and I want to post, or like when I post these good moments, I'm like, my concern is reassuring people I'm okay when I'm really not. Like I don't confront issues. I don't confront the things that are going on in my life. Like, and that sucks. Like when you talk about things like depression, like that promotes loneliness in the online world. Let me post my life. Let me show people that I do things. Well, then I won't be lonely. I won't be, etc. And I think that all of that kind of coming together, like I feel like that, like, because there's just like you have identity, you have self-worth, you have loneliness, you have like poor time management. Like you have all of these issues that social media promotes, and like I feel like that, like in the nicest way, in the nicest way that I can tie these issues together would be the only way to go from dealing with these things to going to a better place is just turning to things that are going to promote God in your life over these things. Like, because it's almost like if social media is your foundation, then you're going to be depressed. You're going to be too concerned with yourself. You're going to be too concerned with making sure you're reassuring people that you're okay. You're not confronting the reality of your life. You're managing your time poorly, and you're being consumed by social media because you've made it your foundation. Where I feel like it's almost like the counter thing to that. If I read my Bible, if it's the first thing I do in my day, I'm not engaged. My time management is better. My mood is better. And even when I have my phone, like I almost find myself like not even wanting to be on it. When I engage with Jesus first, when I engage with like my community first. And so like I think like honestly like the best way to like even like for people listening, because I feel like there's just so much, like I feel like we could really talk about this for like 2 hours and like really nitpick every single portion, which will probably, I know we have a couple episodes lined up in the future talking about more specifics, which we'll probably hit on then. But like I almost feel like that like the big takeaway we can have is these things are not necessarily bad, but they're bad if you're pursuing them first over God. So pursuing social media before Jesus, that's the hierarchy you need to change to start redeeming some of the issues like depression, anxiety, fear, self-promotion, poor time management. Like you want to redeem those issues, stop making social media your foundation, make Jesus your foundation. Because if it's social media first, you're going to be dealing with a whole lot of bad fruit. Whereas if it's Jesus first, you have good fruit to now engage in an online community with a different perspective that I think is healthy.
I remember I was preaching one time at our student ministry, and I think one of the things that I said was we tend to find ourselves at the end of Twitter drama instead of at the end of a chapter of the book of the Bible. And we like to be in that drama more than anything, and it consumes our lives. And I think it's interesting. It's fascinating, you know. And what do you guys think, you know, like to our listeners out there, like, you know, comment below, like what do you think some of these social media impacts are for you? Like what are some of the tensions that you guys deal with?
I feel like this almost opens up an opportunity to be like, start listing the specific issues you're noticing that you're dealing with because of social media. Because if we can tackle each of them individually, like, you know, we can turn a 5-hour podcast into a couple different episodes.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think that's a good wrapping point for right there for social media and just the big impact. I think it completely has integrated into our lives. We cannot escape social media. And I think there's times with social media to where, I don't know about you, but there's times, and maybe I'm crazy, but like there's something peaceful in operating in silence. Like social media, I think has like a tidal wave has like a raging like typhoon almost, like is so loud to where when I wake up, this is true. When I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, from 4 o'clock in the morning till about 5 in the morning, like it is the most peaceful, restorative, focused I ever am is in that time, because there is nothing, literally silence. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys think like there's something about silence, or am I just nuts? Not get nugs or whatever, but am I nuts? But tell us what you guys think about in the comments about social media and how maybe how does affect you, or what are some of the positive things too? Because there is positive things on social media too, But what do you guys think of this topic, and how are you maintaining spiritually, and how are you doing with that? So.
I think that is a great place to wrap up. So,
right.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Thanks.
Turn on the bell if you want notifications, whatever.
We appreciate you all. We hope you have a good morning, evening, day, whatever time you're listening to this podcast. We hope that's a blessing to you in any way, and we look forward to engaging with you anyway. All right. Have a good one. This is Honest to God. See you later.
Peace out.